This is Michael Popok. It's time for Legal AF After Dark. Ooh, there we go. Lights are getting brighter. But not for Alina Habba, who appears to be being removed on an almost daily basis from continued representation of Donald Trump and others around him in the various criminal and civil cases and appellate matters that involve Donald Trump. Given her losing streak, I'm surprised it didn't happen earlier, but on the most recent edition of Legal AF, the podcast, we talked about it. Take a listen.
Talking about Alina Habba, seems to be quietly demoted from the appeal in the E. Jean Carroll case, which she previously said she was going to be the one handling. A notice of appearance was filed by another lawyer in the E. Jean Carroll case. And then Weisselberg replaced Alina Habba with a lawyer after pleading guilty to perjury. Usually, Popok, when you start off as a civil defendant and end up pleading guilty to felony perjury, and when you're a criminal defendant in the civil case and you lose the case monetarily, there's no other way to say that's the worst possible outcome for you in a civil case. And that seems to be the Alina Habba specialty. And as we talk about the Alina Habba outcome when she sued the New York Times for Donald Trump, New York Times was awarded nearly $500,000. When Alina Habba sued Hillary Clinton and dozens of others for Donald Trump, and Hillary Clinton and those other individuals were awarded nearly $1 million in sanctions by the judge. It's kind of the Alina Habba specialty, but I guess she's taking it to the next level, Popok, by now turning her civil clients into criminal defendants who then go to jail. Pretty impressive accomplishment there for Alina Habba. But I think this ethics violation, this is my opinion, others can disagree, but New York rule of professional responsibility, and you know the rule, Popok, you practice in New York, 3.3 sub A sub 3 requires a lawyer to tell the tribunal, even if it would potentially violate attorney-client privilege and attorney-client confidences, if you become aware that your client was engaged in perjury and lying. And Justice Engoron put her on notice, and he said, I'm on inquiry notice. I'm not saying I'm adopting this New York Times reporting in my ruling. I'm just saying I'm on inquiry notice that this could potentially have taken place. What do you know about it? Habba refused to answer, and Goron issued his 92-page opinion devoid of any response from Habba, which has implications. And so I just wonder if we will be seeing more implications there, which I think we will be. And I think we'll see that. You referenced this before the ad break in the Independent Monitor's report as well, as she talks about the developments since the last order. Would love to get your take on that, Popok.
Yeah, for sure. And we can tie it to Ashley Merchant, too, who we're going to talk about later, because I believe she violated ethics rules in giving her testimony about a current pending criminal investigation under a very similar set of laws there. You have an obligation as a lawyer, Ben and I and others, Karen and others that are members of the bar and swear an oath to uphold the Constitution and to be ethical. And one of them is ethics and candor to a tribunal. And candor to a tribunal is in every state's ethics rules. And you and I have pointed out a number of places where Alina Habba has crossed the line, come close to the line, and or crossed it in what she has said. Now, look, I thought that when she lost horribly the first E. Jean Carroll case last May, and the jury returned a verdict of $5.5 million, and after that, and Donald Trump effectively kicked her upstairs to be the head of MAGA Inc. PAC or legal whatever and spokesperson. I thought, oh, all right, well, he's taken the reins away from her. And he's kicked her, like George Steinbrenner used to do. He kicked the manager off the playing field and put him upstairs in the general manager's office. But no, she came back. She's like a bad penny. She keeps coming back, and he keeps having renewed confidence in her until, any thinking client, and I know that's a stretch when we're talking about the Republican candidate for president, but any thinking client with the track record that Alina Habba has accomplished for him would have replaced her, and anybody who's also represented by her would have replaced her a long time ago. You're being kind. I'm doing a hot take right now where I go through the 9 different losses for Donald Trump, civil and criminally, nationally and internationally, over the last 14 months, and she's on almost every one of those. including at least 21 jurors unanimously coming back against Donald Trump in civil cases as they're about to start a criminal trial, which hopefully she's nowhere to be around. Alan Weisselberg switched his lawyers in criminal side after he lost and was sentenced to 100 days in Rikers Island for his role in the 17 count criminal conviction of the Trump Organization entities for tax evasion and his own tax evasion. He fired the lawyer that was being paid for by Donald Trump, and he switched gears and he hired Seth Rosenberg, who's a well-known, not MAGA, white-collar defense lawyer in New York. It's the kind of person you would go to when you want to have the prosecutors and the judge kind of respect your position. May not agree with it all the time, but at least have some goodwill there. And so he hired Seth. But he did not use Seth is really a white collar, and his firm is really criminal. They don't really have a civil side, or at least and so he allowed Alina, because Trump was paying the freight, to represent him in the New York Attorney General case. And we know how that went. Not only did he get did he has to repay and disgorge pensions and settlement payments and severance payments that were paid to him and other monies by way of Judge Engoron's order, but he committed perjury, and the lawyers there suborned and permitted perjury to happen, which is your point, Ben, about the ethics issues, while at the same time his lawyers, which are Seth Rosenberg, were in negotiations, as publicly reported in the New York Times, to have Alan Weisselberg, the CFO, plead guilty to perjury charges for what he did and testified to in the Manhattan DA's office and other places. And she knew, or should have known, at the time she was asked, and when the reporting hit the New York Times, that her client was in talks to have committed perjury and plead guilty to that, and should have answered under her obligation of candor to the tribunal, should have answered that question accurately to the judge, and she did not. Now, the fact that he fired her for the subsequent appeal doesn't. I assume Seth Rosenberg is guiding now Alan Weisselberg, who's got his own problems because he hasn't been sentenced yet. He's going to be in front of, get this, Ben, Judge Merchan, who's the judge that is presiding over the March 25th start of the criminal trial against Donald Trump for business record fraud, is going to be the person who's going to be sentencing again Alan Weisselberg for his perjury charge. So he's got more problems and he doesn't need Alina Habba handling his case any longer. And we're just going to see her get canned and fired all along the way because she's a walking malpractice case for the defense.
That Manhattan District Attorney case that you mentioned is marching forward in March 25th. It's just one of those things too, Popok. The media doesn't really, they talk about it on the key dates and deadlines, but then it just seems like, whoa, where did this come from? And it just kind of reminds me of, and I won't get fully political here because that's not the point of this show, President Biden's State of the Union, where because their coverage is so lazy of what's happening, when you see the President Biden that we all know and we've seen, and then it's like, whoa, he's so fiery, he's not sleepy. What? Yeah, just follow the facts and follow the data about what's going on. And when you follow what's going on, for example, in the Manhattan District Attorney case, you see that, one, it's right around the corner. Two, that Donald Trump is desperately trying to hide from the jury through motions in limine all of the key evidence. He doesn't want Cohen to testify. He doesn't want Stormy Daniels to testify. He doesn't want Karen McDougal to testify. He doesn't want his doorman to testify. He doesn't want Rudy Giuliani's interview with Sean Hannity. Trump doesn't want his own statements to be shown before the jury unless there's a proffer. He filed basically, I don't want any of the things that I did that are known publicly to go before the jury. And ultimately, the response by Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg was like, okay, are you doing a press release or are you actually filing a legal document? Of course, these things should go before the jury. And ultimately, if you want to try to attack the credibility of Michael Cohen or Stormy Daniels or Karen McDougal or yourself with your own statements, there's a jury for that. go ahead and cross-examine or present that to the jury. But all of this stuff is clearly relevant and admissible stuff. So it's a brief update on the Manhattan District Attorney case.
Well, if you like that, and you like legal and political podcasts hosted by lawyers who know what they're talking about at the intersection of law, politics, and justice, you've come to the right place. On the MeidasTouch YouTube channel, show we call Legal AF. Yes, it's cheeky, and it's exactly what you think it means. We do it every Wednesday and Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And then the leaders of Legal AF, like me, Michael Popok, we do hot takes about every hour to catch you up in between the two main podcasts. If you know all about Legal AF, you're already a fan, part of our audience. We appreciate you from the bottom of our heart. If you can take that clip then, send it to somebody in your life who doesn't know about the show or hasn't been part of our audience and say, hey, you know that show Legal AF I really like? Here's a clip from it and see if we can get them to join. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, you know all the other content providers on MeidasTouch Network, but you never heard of Legal AF or Michael Popok. Oh, Michael Popok, that was Legal AF. And we invite you to join us on Wednesdays and Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, only on the MeidasTouch YouTube channel. And until my next hot take, until my next Legal AF, this is Michael Popok reporting.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Meidas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.